Yeah, absolutely, it is. Well, we are talking about leading astray, creating pleasure and confusion, and no doubt we'll be leading the audience astray as we go into these wonderful topics. Absolutely, absolutely. So, look, I see some people coming in. Hi, guys! If you're joining us live, welcome. Thanks very much for coming in. If you're watching this on the replay, also welcome. Also, thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Oh, and I've got some terrible feedback there. Let me take that off. Right. Okay. So it's been a little while, Jack. So we were catching up just before the show started. But how's Tricks? How you getting on? All good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I passed 1,900 subscribers on YouTube. Finally, we passed it.
Hallelujah!
Almost.
That's awesome.
Yes. We're near the legendary 2K. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So going on with that. What else? Well, I told you about my whole coffee machine situation, just absolutely abysmal. But other than that, I've been getting back into the field using Tinder Platinum, which up until now I'm very positive about. Getting some real life examples of using the art of seduction, the book you and I are talking about. Absolutely. And other than that, things have just been going as planned.
Good stuff.
And with you?
Well, you know, I mean, it's a bit Groundhog Day at the moment, what with everything that's going on over here, but pretty chilled out the weekend. We had a banging Rule Zero, actually, on Saturday, which was on this channel. So if anybody hasn't seen Rule Zero from Saturday yet, we were discussing, well, kind of degeneracy, actually. We were discussing the so-called the new normal of dating. And we were saying, is this as degenerate as it's going to get, or is it going to get worse, or can we turn the clock back? And, you know, obviously we can't turn the clock back, but we had some fun discussing that, and also anal tattooing, which took up quite a lot of the discussion.
As in literal anal tattooing, or just bum tattoos?
No, actual anal tattoos, because the reason that, well, one of the things that inspired the show, I'd been sent an article earlier in the week talking about this Brazilian pop star, this lady who'd had an anal tattoo done, and she'd live streamed it onto OnlyFans. So I just thought it was quite an amusing story. And there's this picture of her actually getting the tattoo done, and it looks like the guy's, you know, going right in, as it were. So I thought it was obviously kind of funny story, but also it just spurred this topic on of like, okay, so obviously things are pretty crazy out there in Thotland. You know, have we got further to go, or have we seen the peak of this? And yeah, it was just a really good show. It really flowed. Everyone had some great contributions. John MLD came in drunk from Tokyo for a few minutes, which is really funny. And yeah, it was all good.
God is dead, man. God is dead.
Absolutely. Well, Clary was on there. It was a really mixed bag, because you had Clary on there, who was giving his very sort of, well, angry, but, you know, considered sort of economic analysis. And then you had Myron Gaines, who was giving it the sort of like, well, let me tell you some facts from Miami. This is what it's, you know, and all of that. And then you had John MLD coming in blind drunk for a couple of minutes, talking about how great Tokyo is. And then Rollo giving obviously his usual stuff. So it's just a really interesting, like, you know, mixture of sort of different viewpoints and stuff.
Ryan with the cynical cherry on top. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ryan actually said on Twitter after us that he'd broken the record for saying anal tattooing the more times than anybody else has ever said on a live stream. Which
that is an achievement in and of itself.
Exactly. But anyway, so if you haven't watched that, then do catch up. It was the previous video on my channel, on this channel now. So do watch that, because it was really good, and there was some serious stuff in there as well. But today we're talking about, well, I've called this 2 techniques that will improve your seduction skills. But effectively what we're doing now is continuing with the breakdown of the art of seduction. But there's a couple of chapters that come together at the beginning of phase 2. And one of them is about keeping them in suspense. And then the next one is about what he calls using the demonic power of words to sow confusion. So if you like, there's suspense as a technique, and then there's the use of language. So we thought we'd dive into that today. But this is now, as he calls this, phase 2 of the book. And he talks about creating pleasure and confusion. And what he's really saying here, I think, on this purple page, if you've got that in yours, he's kind of saying, okay, so you've got some attraction from this whoever you're trying to pull. There's some residual attraction there, but they're not really on the hook yet. So how do you get them on the hook? And he says, your greatest danger in this phase is the hint of routine or familiarity. You need to maintain some mystery, keep a little distance so that in your absence, your victims become obsessed with you. And this is something we've been banging on about the whole time, isn't it, really?
It's actually like the main focus of the book. And to really put it bluntly, if you want to put it down to its basics, it really is push-pull, just all of it. But he goes into more variants of push-pull than I can even count, in all honesty. But now he mentions the push-pull variant of, how do I phrase that? Not necessarily rhythm, but habits. The push-pull of habits. Now, let's say you always text the girl at night or in the morning. Switch it up a bit. Like, she will expect you to text her back within the hour or whatever, or within the 10 minutes. I don't know. Switch it up a bit. Make her wonder, like, why isn't he texting me now? Like, normally he responds within 10 minutes. What is he doing? What is her name? Who is he? So there's all sorts of ways where you can implement push-pull in other than, well, what we have been talking about. You can do it with routine as well. Like, break your normal routine and make her wonder why you are doing it. Yes.
It's very true. And it is very easy to get locked into a routine or a rhythm with a girl, isn't it, that you're seeing or dating? And you've got to be really careful about that. Because particularly in the early stages, it's just going to get a little bit tired a little bit too quickly.
That's why date night is stupid. Well, it is. Like, some couples are like, well, Wednesday evening is date night. No, it isn't. Like, why the hell are you setting a date or an actual date for something that's supposed to be spontaneous and a reaction to something, instead of just, well, every Wednesday we do that. Doesn't matter if she's been a bitch all day. Wednesday is date night. No, doesn't work like that. Well, for most guys it does, apparently.
Well, exactly. And so what is the answer to this? Well, you've got to keep them in suspense, as he says. So this is chapter 9. So at the beginning he writes, the moment people feel they know what to expect from you, your spell on them is broken. More, you have ceded them power. The only way to lead the seduced along and keep the upper hand is to create suspense, a calculated surprise. People love a mystery, and this is the key to luring them further into your web. Behave in a way that leaves them wondering, what are you up to? Doing something they do not expect from you will give them a delightful sense of spontaneity. They will not be able to foresee what comes next. You are always one step ahead and in control. Give the victim a thrill with a sudden change of direction. So this is the key thing, isn't it, really? Because if you're doing chody sort of dating, then it's all very sort of like, oh, well, we had a nice meal last week. Would you like to come to the brasserie with me this week? And we can talk about my, 401k type thing. It's all very formulaic and it's all very structured and it's all going along with sort of societal expectations of this is how dating should be. But actually that is poison as far as, sexual tension is concerned, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because it creates a bit of a loss of words here, but it's regime. It's like, this is our strict schedule, and it becomes predictable. And the one thing that kills seduction in and of itself is a schedule. Rigid. It's rigid. Like, I know what's going to happen. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do that. It's boring. It's boring. And in behavior, this counts as well. And then I have to fall back to the ancient wisdom of the great philosopher Ryan Stone.
Well, he is ancient.
Well, that is true. My God, man. But as he once said, you have to call her a C word every now and then. Now, not because you actually think she is that or whatever, but just to stir just to rock the boat, to stir the pot, so to say. You're creating that weird anxious moment where, and I've said this before, just create unnecessary drama, but be in control of it. As Ryan then says, or call her a C word every now and then. I used to do that with my girl every now and then as well. I was like, why do you do that? And then she's like, what do you mean? Like, that, you keep doing that. It is so annoying. I don't understand why you keep doing that. And all of a sudden, she's like, why is he acting like that? And then I just do nothing out of nowhere. I just stop doing it. And then she's all surprised and doesn't know what went wrong. She doesn't know what to do. And I'm like, why are you worried? Like, what you just said. What did I say? I don't know.
Well, there would be some people who would say, well, this is manipulative and it's your game playing and all that kind of stuff. But what's your response to that?
Piss off.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
Just piss off, man. It's fun. It's when you understand female psychology, you know that's not manipulation. That's when you know it's kind of what they're looking for. They're looking for something that's not, they're looking for excitement. Like, I know, you have to be the stable guy and I can pay a mortgage and I've got my 401k maxed out. Yes, but are you also the bad guy who she needs to worry about?
Well, do you think, well, on that basis, do you think Pat Stedman's wife got really horny after, after recent events? Maybe. I mean,
I don't know, man. I think she looked up the guy with the buffalo horns. I mean,
yeah. I mean, if you're going to be an insurrectionist, you want to be like you want to be top tier insurrectionist because everything's a hierarchy, isn't it? This is the thing. There's a hierarchy in the office. There's a hierarchy at your local pub. There's a hierarchy, in the nightclub when you've got the dudes from the the chads down to whoever. There's always a hierarchy, isn't there? And so ideally you want to either get yourself out of hierarchies and be a lone wolf, or you want to be at the top of that hierarchy or as near.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But even in your off weekend storming government building parties, there is a hierarchy, and the guy with the buffalo horns just seemed to be on top of that.
I mean, that guy was pretty Chad, although he is a vegan. So
I don't get that. I think that's a lie. That has to be.
It's being put out to discredit him.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps
like he has to be vegan. He's stupid.
But there's a good quote here from I don't know who this is by actually. From Maud de Bellaroche. This is from one of these libertine French text that he uses a lot, and he says the first care of any dandy is to never do what one expects them to do, to always go beyond. And then later it says attracting attention is not the only goal of a dandy. He wants to hold it by unexpected, even ridiculous means. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that there's such emphasis on being surprising, not being expected, not being the boring regular chode. And for me, this is what a lot of all this stuff comes down to. It's just like, think about what the boring dick who plays by the rules and does everything right is going to do, and do the opposite of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that's why nagging works. That's why
negging.
Yeah, nagging. Like the old maxim of treat her like your bratty little sister.
Yes.
Because the chode is going to be like, oh, you're so pretty, and do you want a drink? And I don't know, I get kind of nervous when I'm around girls. And guys like you and me walk up, and it's like, okay, what else have you got going on besides your looks? She goes, like, how dare you? It's like, I've got a lot going on. I like travel and music and all the other things my girlfriends like. It's like, oh, wow, you're unique.
Yeah, drinking red wine, watching movies.
Oh, yeah.
Cuddling up on the sofa, watching Netflix.
Ben and Jerry's. Which is actually pretty good, by the way. I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I try to stay off the old ice cream as much as I can, but it is pretty good, I have to say. But then a little bit later, he says, in seduction, you need to create constant tension and suspense, a feeling that nothing is predictable. Do not think of this as a painful challenge. You're creating drama in real life, so pour your creative energies into it. Have some fun. And that's kind of what you're saying, isn't it? I mean, you could look at this and say, well, it's really Machiavellian and manipulative, but actually it's just kind of like having a bit of fun, right?
Mm-hmm. It is, again, treating her like a bratty little sister. And some people will take that out of context and say, well, he's talking about dating your sister. No, you effing spurg. I'm not. But it's more like you have the situation and you don't take it too seriously. Because a lot of
Yes.
guys always take it so seriously, like, oh, she's my girlfriend, she needs to like me, and blah, 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 blah. Rock the boat a bit and be fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when she's clumsy or whatever, maybe in the kitchen and she drops something, I'm just naming something. You go like, why am I not surprised this is happening? Really? Like, I am not even disappointed anymore. I just knew this would happen. How else could this be? And then you kind of do it with a shit-eating grin. The thing is, if you're actually serious when you say that, then I might say maybe you're manipulative and Machiavellian. But the way I'm trying to describe it, when you're not being serious about it, and you're just teasing her and you're amplifying the situation a bit, but because she's probably going to be awkward about it because she dropped something, then it's just playing with it and not Machiavellian, not manipulative. You're taking the pressure off a situation.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. Have you always been like that naturally, or was it something you had to learn?
Weirdly enough, I have.
Really?
Weirdly enough, I always enjoyed taking the piss out of a situation.
That's good.
But that didn't mean it went natural as it is right now.
Yeah.
Because when she actually got angry with it, I used to immediately default to the apologetic, where it was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Now I'm just like, oh, did that offend you? Oh, you're bothered by that. No, not even that, but it's more like shitting the grid, like, oh, you're angry with me. Ooh, I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Ooh.
Yeah, it's that kind of amused mastery thing, isn't it, that they talk about?
Yeah, mostly it is. Because, and maybe a bit of an extreme take, but I really understood that as soon as I realized that a girl can't physically harm me. And that sounds a bit bold, but it's like, girl is angry with you. And then I was like, yeah, but what is she going to do? She cannot physically harm me. It's like, oh, no, you're angry. Oh, what are you going to do? Yell at me? Oh, no, that's going to hurt. Ooh. And then it's like, you don't take me seriously. Oh, should I? Oh. It's like, and then, well, yeah. You kind of get what you want as a guy after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Indeed. Why do you think it is that most, or, well, many guys find it difficult to behave in this way and they default to chodiness or more conventional responses?
I think that is because of the age of emotionalism we live in right now. And that sounds a bit woo-woo magical, but it's like boys are being raised to default to the feminine. In all honesty, they are being learned and taught through education that it's not okay to tease girls, that you should respect them, and that girls are fragile and blah, blah, blah. And then when you like a girl, you have to show your emotional side. And you have to not be afraid to show your feelings. So it's kind of being talked out of them when it comes to interacting with girls. Now, guys, amongst each other, that's bull busting all over. Like, we, for some odd reason, although not completely true. Not completely true. I keep seeing more and more guys not being able to bust balls, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah.
They can't take a joke. In immediate, like with the whole bullying that's going on right now, like most of it, I think it's just men shit testing men. Like, can he take a joke? Does he know how to play ball? Can he throw the ball back? But it's kind of being like drawn out of us. Or no, more like it's being, you're better in English than I am. Like,
well,
what am I trying to say?
It's being woked out of us in a way, because now the culture is all about safe spaces and not offending people and being very, very cautious around people so that nobody gets hurt or feels bad. And as a result, we're perhaps becoming less able to engage in the hustle and bustle and the rumble tumble of what was previously normal male interactions. So I think you're right, but I guess there's many reasons why men perhaps find it difficult to relate to women in this way. One of them perhaps being because they feel like if they do, they're going to get arrested or something, or it's going to be it's a terrible, terrible social faux pas. But really, everyone just needs to lighten up a bit and just, like you say, have some fun with it. You know?
Oh, absolutely. But the whole being arrested thing, I think that fear is
overstated.
Well, it originates from the media you consume because it really isn't that bad, you know. And in all honesty, when I hear a girl complaining about cat calling, I just hear a guy who I deemed ugly cat called me, and now I'm pissed. That's how I interpret it. Like, oh, so you got approached by a guy you don't like, so that's what's going on. Of course, you don't say that, but you do interpret it like that.
Yeah, of course. We've got a question here from Adam who's saying, been seeing a girl for a while. She's super into me, but I've slipped into boyfriend mode. It's a common problem, isn't it? I need to break it off as I don't want to settle down again, but I find ending it the hardest part. The hardest part of it all. Any tips?
Well, you don't necessarily have to end it. If you know what I mean. Like, you can keep her as a friend with benefits or whatever. They've been seeing a girlfriend for a while. She's super into me, but I've slipped into boyfriend mode. Like, do you mean you've actually acknowledged that you are her boyfriend? Because if you aren't, you just pull back the attention a bit and you let her come to you more.
I get the problem, and I've fallen into this many times over the years. It's easy to slip into, I guess it depends what you mean by slipped into boyfriend mode. If you've become her default boyfriend and that wasn't your original intention, which I think is what you mean, then yeah, that happens. And, you know, you meet a girl you like and you guys have a good time together and it's kind of easy to slip into that. In terms of breaking it off, that's a separate question. I think really Tom Torero would always talk about, you've got to shoot the puppy. You know, you've got to just, there's no easy or really kind, clean way of doing it. You've just got to go, you know, this is it, I'm afraid. And you've just got to, and then walk off into the sunset. Not literally, guys, of course, if anybody.
Jella.
Exactly. But yeah, you know, you've got to just pull the sticking plaster off. Maybe that's a slightly more palatable metaphor. There isn't really an easy way. It depends how embedded you are. I mean, when you say you've been seeing her for a while, if he means like 6 months or something, I wouldn't really regard that. I would say, you know, you can just disappear. You can just ghost, you know, and I wouldn't feel too bad about doing that, really. I mean, of course, if you've been seeing her for 10 years or something, then that's a little bit different. But if it's anything under a year, I'd say you can pretty much just, you know, you don't have to make a big deal of it. The thing is, you've just got to get yourself out of her orbit, cut contact, and then just take it a day at a time and move forward, right?
Well, that's true. And kind of like, because, and you've probably seen this as well, a lot of guys assume things more than girls as of late. So when you say you slipped into boyfriend mode, like, again, take some distance and see what her reaction is, because maybe she doesn't even see it like that. Just because you've been seeing each other for a longer duration of time doesn't mean you have already acquired that status, sort to say.
Yeah. Well, Svetan says, I reference Adam's question, why not try the mode 1 way with the next girl? Probably too late to be mode 1 with the current one. Well, I think it is too late. Well, it's by definition, it's too late with the current one, right? Because he's already with her. So are you saying, Svetan, that he should be directly sexual with the next girl and that's going to set the frame better from the beginning? I think that's perhaps what he might be saying. So the next girl, he's just very direct, very upfront about his sexual interest, and that's perhaps going to set the thing up in a better way.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. Again, like going back to the former question, he can always tell her, I don't want to be exclusive. Like, that's not that hard. And then you leave it up to her.
No, you can. I guess it depends how emotionally invested he is. Because if he's somewhat emotionally invested, like if he's got a bit of the old one-nighters, then that may be more tricky for him to do. But ultimately, you're either going to be together or you're not. And if you're saying you don't want to be together, then in the end, you've just got to find a way to break it. And you can do the what people would say is the right thing. You can take her out for a coffee and say, listen, this just isn't working for me anymore. We have to go our separate ways and do that. You can chicken out of that and you can ring her up, or you can chicken out of that and you can just send her a message and then throw your phone in the river and never speak to her again. But whichever one you do, you've got to make that break because there's no real other way around it.
Oh, wait, he follows up. Been seeing her for 8 months, but I'm seeing her about 3 to 4 times a week, and her toothbrush is at my. Ooh, that's where it starts. That's where it starts.
That is the danger zone. Well, 3 to 4 times a week. Actually, I have to say 3 to 4 times a week is quite a lot, actually, because I haven't even seen my girl for 3 to 4 times a week, apart from periods when we've sort of been in lockdown and we were sort of staying together. But generally speaking, I only really see her like at the weekends. Maybe. Once, so 3 to 4 times a week is quite a lot. So I would say, you might have to be prepared to sacrifice the toothbrush to the greater good. You might not get the toothbrush back. But on a serious note, I would say, well, my advice doesn't change. You have to make the break, however you're going to do it, and just get out of this as cleanly as you can. But then going forward, to avoid the same thing happening again, you've got to be careful of those like boyfriend's behaviors. You've got to be careful about, well, how many times are you seeing her in the week? Are you leaving stuff around there? Because 8 months is still quite a short period of time as well. And this actually relates back to what we were talking about, because what's happened here is it sounds like he's got into routine with her pretty quickly. And I suppose it hasn't killed the romance because it seems like she's into it, but it does lock you into a situation that perhaps you don't want to be in. And that's the other problem with routine. It locks you in as well. And then it can be hard for you to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm wondering, like, did you agree with her to be non-exclusive or to be exclusive? Sorry about that. Because I had my main play over a year, a year and a half, something like that. And we did see each other 3 to 4 times a week as well. But I didn't default to the boyfriend thing because I was very upfront with it. Like, no, I want to be non-exclusive. Yet, if you want to keep hanging around with me, that's fine. And I enjoyed her company. But she damn well knew that we weren't exclusive, or at least I wasn't.
So you were actually verbalizing it then? You actually said to her, listen, we're not exclusive.
Only when she started mentioning it. When she was like, what are we? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, if you want to be solo with me, that's fine. But I don't want to do that. So if you want to hang around with me, you're welcome. And you can stay with my place. That's fine and all that. I don't mind. Like, I enjoy having you around. But when you're not looking, I'm going to keep on swiping, sort of say. And you're invited.
Yeah, to join the swiping. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's really what you should do. That's the best way of doing it. I mean, I've sometimes in the past been a bit more covert than that, and I've attempted to make it obvious from my demeanor, but I haven't necessarily verbalized it. But I get what you're saying, because if she asks, then the right thing to do really is to tell her what's up, and if you're not into a serious one-on-one thing, then you've got to make that clear,
That's why I'm wondering about the whole boyfriend mode. Like, what is that? Like, who set that frame up? Because then
what he might be saying is that he fell into it by default, because you can sort of fall into it by default. And then I suppose you could say, well, who's operating in whose frame? Because her frame, most girls' frame, if she likes you, is going to be, she's going to create the frame, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. So whether you verbalize it or not, she's going to, as I say, create that frame. And if you're in her frame, then you're effectively going along with that. So what, Jack, you're talking about is you were not in her, she was no doubt trying to do that with you, but you were not in her frame. And so you handled the situation in a way that meant that you retained your sort of independence inside the relationship, I suppose.
I kind of just did what I want. Like, I don't want to be your boyfriend. Like, you can treat me like I'm your boyfriend. I'm fine with that, but I'm still going to do my thing. And like I'm telling Adam, it's like, well, when she brings it up, just be honest, like, I want to be non-exclusive. You can come here whenever you like. I don't mind that. But when I get an opportunity or whatever, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And chances are she doesn't want to get to see you again. That is a risk we have to take. Sometimes you have to sacrifice the queen to win the game, so to say. But I mean,
And the toothbrush.
That is true. I do hope it's not a very pretty toothbrush. I mean,
it's a Gucci one. It's gold plated.
It's not even Armani, man. If you want to go for a toothbrush,
I bet John's got John's probably got a Versace toothbrush, hasn't he? If Versace make toothbrushes, I expect John MLD's got one.
It's either that or an Iron Man one. One of the two.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, you need to find a way to cut it off and then just perhaps use it as a lesson going forward about how you manage your affairs the next time. There's a couple more points in this chapter. We can, go on to the next one now. But he talks about suddenness and how suddenness creates a seductive jolt. That is doing something suddenly or suddenly changing direction. Mm-hmm. And you can sort of conceal your, manipulation, he calls it, underneath that. He also talks, and this is another one of these things where it crosses over into politics or even content creation. He says, if you're in the public eye, you must learn the trick of surprise because people kind of get bored with you. And, that's something I've been thinking about recently because I've been thinking about, okay, so with this channel, what do I do to make things fresh, to prevent things from becoming stale? And I think there's some currency in this. You want to shake things up, you want to do some different stuff, etc. And there's a really good line. He says, dogs are reliable, a seducer is not.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty good one.
Yeah. He says, finally, you might think it wise to present yourself as someone reliable, not given to caprice. So like a tradcon, I'm reliable. I'm,
I have a beard.
Yeah. If so, you are in fact merely timid. It takes courage and effort to mount a seduction. Reliability is fine for drawing people in, but stay reliable and you stay a bore. Dogs are reliable. A seducer is not. So it's pretty powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant, and I think Ryan meant as well, by calling her a C word every now and then.
Yes.
Excitement, or no, hold on. Like, dopamine rush is dopamine rush, no matter where it comes from. Like, be her drug dealer, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And then he says timidity is a turnoff, which it is. The symbol is the roller coaster, so you've got the ups and downs, the excitement of the ride. Bring that into our life.
American smashing his girl's phone. Remember that?
I missed vaguely, yeah. What happened?
I don't even remember what exactly happened. So, Greg, forgive me if I get this wrong, but I believe his girl was, or his wife, apologies.
One of many.
One of many, indeed. Had Twitter beef with the other wife, something like that. And he caught wind of that. And he was like, woman, don't do that. You will not disgrace yourself like that to the public online. And she kept doing it, and then he just smashed her phone. It's like, okay, then we're going to do it like this. But some would say, oh, that's abuse and blah, blah, blah. Yet that thrill of something happening like that, and I know how it sounds. It sounds very evil and deceptive and things like that. But that's what women crave. Excitement.
Well, it's drama, isn't it? You know, and we're, again, we're not saying go and just smash your girl's phone and that's some amazing technique, but it's like it's the drama, it's the unexpectedness, it's bringing something, this passion, this jolt into the relationship that wasn't otherwise there, and and that's why it's like catnip, which is this is really the whole point of this chapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, is there a reversal to this? Well, yeah, because if you keep doing the same sort of surprising stuff, like if he smashed her phone every week, then in the end, she's going to just get fed up with it. And,
Yeah. And like with the spontaneousness, it doesn't always have to be like the things I just mentioned. It can be something nice. Like,
yeah.
You know what? I don't know if you guys have this in England, but what's it called again? Oh, come on. I know this. So every year we have this thing in the Netherlands called Sinterklaas. And By God, why can't I remember this?
That's not the weird Santa Claus thing, is it? That was
Yeah, it kind of is.
the politically incorrect Santa Claus thing.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Banquet staff. So it's like I don't even know how to describe this in English, but it's dough with a soft core in it, and it's kind of like marzipan-ish.
Yes.
Something like that. Well, I used to have a girlfriend who absolutely loved that. And I'm not a gift-giving kind of guy. It's more like, hey, if you still don't know I like you, then there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
But I know she loved these things. So every now and then, I just buy her one of these things. She couldn't be happier. A spontaneous act of kindness can be applied as well. It doesn't always have to be smashing a phone, calling her a C word or whatever. It can be an act of kindness as well.
And ideally a bit of both, because you want positive notes as well as, let's say, more, you want highs and lows.
Yes,
ideally.
Exactly.
So both kinds of thing work well in concert together, I would say. So then we go on to the next section, and this is the bit about language, the bit about use of words, and not even just words, but just the way that you communicate. And he calls this section, and I love this, use the demonic power of words to sow confusion. Demonic. He actually goes there with demonic. So yeah, if you've got any trads watching, they're going to go nuts. But the intro says, it is hard to make people listen. They're consumed with their own thoughts and desires and have little time for yours. The trick is making them listen. The trick to making them listen is to say what they want to hear, to fill their ears with whatever is pleasant to them. This is the essence of seductive language. Inflame people's emotions with loaded phrases, flatter them, comfort their insecurities, envelop them in fantasies, sweet words and promises. And not only will they listen to you, they will lose their will to resist you. Keep your language vague, letting them read into it what they want. Use writing to start fantasies and to create an idealized portrait of yourself. Interesting, right?
This immediately reminds me of politicians.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Obama is such a good example of this. Like, say whatever you want, agree with him or not, but that man is the living embodiment of a charismatic. And the way he used words really applies to this as well, because certain people can use an appeal to emotion. Like, an appeal to emotion is not a real argument. It's all based on emotion. I feel, therefore it is, which is not true. But when you use it like, when people who actually are very capable with wording, like these wordsmiths, they can use an appeal to emotion, but not only use that as an argument, but make you feel with them as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Think of the children. Who would harm the children? Think of the poor and blah, 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 blah. And then use it, phrase it in such a way that you cannot, in whatever way, prove them wrong. Otherwise, you're a children's hater.
Yes, exactly. You could say that they're doing something similar, talking about well, I heard an argument made, and this is an argument I agree with or would push necessarily, but the Queen made a statement recently saying effectively that if you don't have a vaccination, then you are selfish because you're not thinking about the other people, etc. And there was pushback against this, and I saw a bit of a YouTube video where a guy was talking about this, and he was saying what they're almost trying to link getting vaccinated with patriotism. If you love your country, you will do this sort of thing. And in his view, he was saying, well, that's not right. They shouldn't do that. This is an emotional appeal. And yeah, you can see his point, can't you? I mean, I'm personally not really anti-vax, so it's not really an argument I want to push. But you can see what he means, can't you? It is this. Yeah. It's the appeal to emotion rather than to fact.
It's the power of framing. Framing is very powerful, done in the right way. Again, that's why it reminds me of politicians, because when you now say you are on the right, you are immediately thought of as a 1940s politician, so to say. You are immediately thought of as a Nazi. Why? because through the years they are successfully framed right with anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the demonic power of words. It is that powerful when you just repeat it long enough.
Yes. Yeah. True. I suppose the interesting thing about this is, because you're right, I read this chapter and I think this is great as far as politics are concerned or is concerned, and as far as influencing masses of people is concerned. In terms of dating, because obviously the guys are watching this, they're sitting there thinking, God, how am I going to get laid? What's this?
How am I going to run a country?
Yeah. Well, they're welcome as well, but I'm sure there's a lot of people here hanging on to our every word, saying, Jack, Troy, tell me how I'm going to get laid. How do I use this, demonic language to get laid? The difficulty, as far as that's concerned, he talks a lot here about flattery. And flattery is problematic, isn't it? Because we know how things go down, given that women often have very, inflated egos and so on and so forth with their Instagram and so on. Flattery is a bit dangerous in this context, isn't it?
It is, because every girl who's pretty has been told she is since she is 5 years old. So
yes.
It's kind of hard to do that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Because, why do we approach? Because she looks good. So it's okay to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But again, you kind of have to default back to a, I don't even know what word they use these days, but you got
to pull it back a bit.
Yes, exactly. But I believe, does Green use Rasputin in this chapter, by the way? Because Rasputin was great at this.
I don't think he does actually in this chapter, but why? What are you thinking of with Rasputin?
Well, Rasputin was one of these wordsmiths as well, because he kept telling women what they wanted to hear. Because Rasputin was sort of a religious man, as in, oh, I'm very religious, I can't do that. I don't do seductive things and blah, blah, blah. And because he kept portraying himself like that, he became very seductive to these women. There's thousands of stories of Rasputin seducing unhappy women with the way he used to frame his wording. So yeah, this is kind of on the edgy level when it comes to seduction and all like that. So how can we interpret this in a kind of a softcore method when it comes to that? Because yes, compliments are a thing and they can get you very far. As we all know, everybody's doing that these days.
Well, how have compliments and flattery done, for you? Is that something you use a lot when you meet a girl, and does it sort of work, or how does it go down?
In all honesty, rarely. I'm kind of a dick.
Which is the more standard advice these days, isn't it? Because we're all told, well, everybody's a nice guy. Nice guys finish last, so you've got to bring a bit of the spice into it.
Yeah, but I do acknowledge it though when a girl looks good. But
yeah,
I rarely default to it. Or when I went out, I kind of look for IOIs and then I head from that, or I go from there. And every now, what was it again? It was a while back. It was this weekend. I was texting with a girl and we have the curfew. And she's like, well, I'm available then. To which I responded, well, you're hot and all that, but you're not 95 euros hot, risking for breaking curfew. So I kind of went with that. So it was a compliment, but not a very good one, I guess. We're still talking, so that's good.
Well, yeah, again, it's that same thing of, you pay the compliment, but then you immediately puncture it. You immediately sort of say something else to pull it back in some way, and that works really well, I think. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because if you're doing, say, day game, you walk up to a girl, you start to talk to her, you want to take her on a date, it's pretty damn obvious that you think that she is attractive, right? Because why would you do it otherwise? So there's no harm in owning that and acknowledging it at all. And so, hey, I saw you look cute, you look pretty, you look nice, you look beautiful, whatever. It's fine. But I wouldn't belabor the point. And it has been said that you shouldn't wax lyrical about a woman's beauty until, well, if at all, but certainly until a bit later on. Maybe you've been sleeping together for a while or whatever. You might compliment her a little bit more then. But at the beginning, it can come over as very cheesy because it's the sort of classic sort of, hey, babe, you look so beautiful, kind of thing, which doesn't play well. Also, as you say, they are very used to being complimented on their looks. If you look at a girl's Instagram post, look at all the comments underneath, like, oh, you're so beautiful, So it's nothing new. Mm-hmm. And it just makes you look like that generic run-of-the-mill dude, doesn't it?
It kind of does. It really kind of does. Because how do you stand out these days? Well, by being kind of held back when it comes to acknowledging her looks. I remember that girls asking me, like, do I look good in this whatever pants, whatever she was wearing? I'm like, not worse than usual. She just looks at me like, what do you mean by that? Well, you don't look worse than usual. But doesn't mean I look good. Well, I don't know. It's not So again, I'm kind of a dick when it comes to that. Like, again, I always see a girl look at me. I just go immediately for the, well, are you going to offer me a drink or are you going to stare all night? I don't even acknowledge her looks. I acknowledge the fact that I noticed that she thought I was attractive. So, yes, in all honesty, when it comes to looks, I kind of focus on me and acknowledging that she finds me attractive instead of me finding her attractive.
Yeah.
If I am explaining that right.
No, absolutely. Here's the thing, though. Compliments is one thing. And we can put that to one side. But the other key lesson of this chapter is that you've got to make them feel emotion. And that is absolutely true, isn't it?
Yes.
You've got to make them feel emotion. Now, that emotion could be humor and amusement. It could be pissed offness because you're such a cocky mofo. And she's like, how dare he say that? Or it could be, well, anything really. Any emotion is better than no emotion, isn't it? And I think that's at the heart of this. It's this use of language and I guess your general demeanor to make her feel something.
What's the opposite of what's the opposite of love?
I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, you do. I know you do.
In the audience, what's the opposite of love? Put it in the chat.
We'll wait.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, smash the like button while you're at it.
Do smash the like button and also hit subscribe. We need to get more and more subscribers on board. There's about 40% of guys who watch this and they're not even subscribed to the channel yet, which is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of those dickheads as well. Like 50% of my audience is not subscribed. I could have been at 2K months ago, but no.
Exactly. Well, listen, there's a couple of guys. Well, okay, so there's a couple of guys who got this correct in the chat. Actually, in fact, most guys have got this correct. This guy, Oscar, hate to say it,
wrong.
You have got the answer incorrect. Because, Jack, what is the answer?
Indifference.
Exactly.
As long as she's feeling something, you're doing it right.
Yeah. And you can see a lot of people have got indifference correct. And yeah, apologies, Oscar, but that was the point we were getting at. That's why I didn't want to give the game away too quickly because I knew what Jack was aiming for. But yeah, you've got to make her feel something. And the other point that he makes actually in this is, well, this actually before that, he talks about promising a vague, rosy future. And this actually reminds me of a well-established game technique called future projection. And this is something that you can very much do when you first meet a girl. I do this often. You'll be in the club, you'll be at the party, the bar, whatever, and you start talking to the girl, and then you say something like, oh, we should fly to Mexico together. Tomorrow, just imagine we'll be on the beach in Mexico. We'll be sipping cool cocktails. There'll be white sand under our feet, the heat of the sun. You'll just be wearing a little bikini, and then we'll go skinny dipping in the water together, and et cetera, et cetera. And that sense of future projection. Now, it's all very vague. It's all a bit of a fantasy, but making her imagine you guys going off and doing something amazing together in some unspecified future. Very, very powerful technique.
Isn't that what the cube is built upon? By mystery.
The cube is a bit more of a personality reading thing. But future projection is also from that sort of era. And it's something that works very well. You just paint this little picture of you two guys together and off doing these cool things together. Or, you know, if you say skinny dipping, obviously there's that hint of sexuality with that as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really powerful. And I think that does link in with what he's talking about here. Because, again, it's making her feel something. Because ideally, she's going to listen to that. She's going to feel positive. She's going to think, oh, that would be cool. Mm-hmm. That would be great. You know, and she's imagining the two of you together. And that is... again, very powerful because you're fixing it in her mind. You're creating this image in her mind of the two of you interacting. And I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but it seems to me that's getting close to a sort of an NLP type technique or a sort of almost hypnotic type technique.
It is. But then you break it all down when she mentions something you don't like, and then you come back with, okay, we're getting a divorce. So you're like,
yes,
you just pulled her in and she's into you and she imagined that, and then all of a sudden you break it all down because she said something about a band she likes and you're like, no, they're horrible. I'm getting a divorce. You can keep the CDs.
You pull it back. And that is the roller coaster. That's the up and down, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's not all positive. It's not all like, oh God, it's going to be amazing, and then we'll get a cabin in Montana and blah blah blah. You know, you've got to puncture it sometimes. Puncture, that was the word I was looking for earlier. You've got to puncture it sometimes as well. Let the air out. You know, bring it back down to earth a bit.
Yeah.
So ideally, a seduction, and this is again something from the mystery method days. A seduction, say it was in a nightclub, over the course of the evening or over the course of the interaction, it should be like, you know, there's these spikes of good feelings, and then it drops down again, and then there's another good feeling, and she doesn't quite know where she is, and that's the key to this, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm reading a bit into it again, and he makes a point about your tone of voice as well. Make your voice an instrument and train it to communicate emotion.
Yes,
and that's something, John, you and I talked about last time. Happiness is contagious.
True.
So there have been occasions where you're like, meet a girl, she's open to you, but she's not into you. And then you try to rub your vibe off a bit on her.
Well,
more than that, I know. I walked right into that one. It's like, my God.
Let's get Ernst Graf on here.
We should. He seems like a very well-educated gentleman, by the way.
Well, he is, but he won't do any of these shows or anything like that, unfortunately. He's very apparently protective of his you know.
I just imagine his voice being so utterly posh.
He must. You can imagine him in a smoking jacket, sort of sitting back, smoking a pipe or something, writing all these things. But
just looking down on us all, like
exactly. Perhaps we'll get him on one day. I don't know. We'll see. But where were we?
Tone of voice. Tone of voice. Where, I mean, you perhaps have seen guys trying to day game. The tone of voice is very monotone. It's like, I just saw you and you look very pretty, but you've got something naughty about you. That doesn't work. You need enthusiasm in your voice. It needs to be up and down and goes kind of everywhere. Not awkward, anxious. It has to be controlled, but be enthusiastic about it. Like, hey, I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing emotion into the voice, and the cadences, the ups, the downs. You can go slow, deep. You can go faster, a bit higher. Again, it's just bringing that variety and emotion into the way that you speak. And he talks about music, doesn't he? He talks about the musicality of speech here. He talks about Don Juan, and he says the secret flow of words in which he enveloped a woman. His voice was musical, his language poetic, and most devastating of all, he knew how to flatter. So yeah, absolutely. But then later on, he says actually it's not about necessarily using fancy words. It's about emotion, and emotion is conveyed through many means, but particularly through how you talk and the seductive way that you put yourself across.
Mm-hmm. It also And he later on mentions this on page 262. And you can kind of default this back to confidence, where it's, hold on. There, affirmative language is active language, full of verbs, imperatives, and short sentences. Cut out, I believe, perhaps, in my opinion. Head straight for the heart. So be convinced of yourself. So
yes.
And I've had this backfire on me with some girls. And you even retweeted that, where people have said to me, Jack, you tend to say things as they are. You leave no room for argument. And I'm like, well, your inability to argue with me is not my problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, you can comment on my way of speaking, but the sheer fact that I am so confident of my opinion that makes you say that is a you problem.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Some girls really don't like it, and some do. Some are like, whoa, this guy's just hella confident. I have rarely met a guy who is so convinced of himself. And some people, mostly lefties, don't like it. So.
Well, he also says that the emotions you're trying to arouse should be strong ones. Do not speak of friendship and disagreement, speak of love and hate. And there is something in that, because he's talking about arousing passions. He's talking about arousing strong emotion. But what you're talking about reminded me of something I saw on one of these dating shows the other night. You can also, it's a risky move. I saw this dating show the other night, and it was First Dates, I think, actually. And
I've been watching that again as well. I love it.
Yeah. It's quite good, isn't it? So there's episode First Dates, and it was a teenage First Dates, actually. They've started running this one with teenagers going on their actual first date on this dinner date show. And there was a couple, and the girl happened to mention that she liked Coldplay, which, to be fair, would be a bit of a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, and everybody has the right to be wrong. So.
Yeah, and the guy said, sort of quite rightly, so, well, why do you like them? They're rubbish. They're very bland. I don't like the way, and he was very direct. He was like, no, that's right. They're rubbish. What? And that's the kind of thing that would be encouraged by some dating coaches, because express an opinion, and even if the opinion is contrary to hers, hold a different opinion. But at the end of it, she said that she didn't want to see him again, and she said it wasn't because he doesn't like Coldplay, but she sort of said, well, you said this thing and you were really sure about it, but you didn't back it up, you didn't give any reason, and I felt that you were unbending in your opinion. Okay, so the point that I'm making is, sometimes you'll do this kind of thing. Sometimes you will be polarizing, and you will lose the girl because she viewed you as being polarizing, and that's just the way it is. There's no magic trick that's going to work every single time. No. Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah. So then it's kind of polarizing to be polarizing instead of your actual opinion. I mean, Coldplay sucks, and I can tell you why. But if a girl tells me she likes Coldplay, I'm not just gonna say I don't like Coldplay because she says she liked them. It doesn't work like that. It really has to be your genuine opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Carry on.
Oh, well, and it's not about having a contradictory opinion
for the sake of it.
Yeah, opposed to hers. It's that you have an opinion and you're convinced of it and that you're 100% behind it. That's what is attractive. Not like you think something opposite of her.
I agree totally. The point that I'm making is, though, that just because you are confident of your opinion and you think a certain thing and you're unafraid to say that in itself is not a magic bullet either.
No, because some people are wrong.
Well, like, sometimes we present these things and it sounds like, oh, if you just do this, if you just do that, then she's going to be attracted to you. And standing up because you don't like a particular band and saying that on a date, rather than going, oh my God, actually, you're right, I love Coldplay, would be seen as like simpy, and saying, no, Coldplay shit. is seen as that's how you should behave. But he still doesn't get the girl. She wasn't that hot anyway, guys, so it doesn't really matter. But the point that and she liked Coldplay, which is but the point that I'm making is you can't think, okay, I'll just do this one thing. I'll be contrarian and then I'm going to get every girl. It doesn't work like that. But isn't it better to be somebody who, if a girl says she likes Coldplay and you think Coldplay is shit, isn't it better to be that guy who says, I don't like Coldplay are rubbish, what are you talking about? And not get the girl? Isn't it better to be that guy rather than to be somebody who tries to pussyfoot around and please other people?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so that's the mindset, isn't it? The mindset is not, I'm going to do this and I'm definitely going to get that girl. The mindset is, I'm going to say what I bloody well think. And I don't really care how people take that is up to them. That's not my responsibility.
Absolutely. Like, this is who I am. And if you want to care to join me, you're free to join me. And if you don't, well, then sod off. You're free to be wrong. I am amazing. Clearly you aren't. Bye.
Absolutely. Indeed. Absolutely.
How did you put that again a while back when a girl was like, oh, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. No, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah. Exactly. She said, oh, I'm really sorry. When they reject you, they turn you down, they reject you. So, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm like, no, I'm sorry for you because you missed out on this wonderful glory. So anyway, all of that being said, I think we're kind of at the end of that, really, aren't we? The reversal the image he talks about is the clouds. In the clouds, it's hard to see the exact form of things. He talks about vagueness a lot. And again, this just goes along with my whole thing about you've got to retain some mystery at the beginning. Don't be too definite about yourself. Don't give too many concrete details. You've got to be something of an enigma to her.
And it fits well with the innuendo chapter we did. Never kiss ass to get ass. Well, that's true.
Exactly.
Neither do ass to mouth either. That's gross.
Yeah. And just saying in the reversal, he does say, do not confuse flowery language with seductive language. In using flowery language, you run the risk of wearing on people's nerves, of seeming pretentious. This is another conversation, really, because I do like the Russell Brand verbal bamboozling, flowery language thing. But it's, again, you've got to use it a bit sparingly because some girls are just going to look at you like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And, but anyway, he's saying this isn't just being flowery for the sake of it. This is hitting emotions, but actually being direct is often the best way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But even in the being direct, there comes a time where you can't always be direct, and then you get the banter going. Now you get the back and forth.
Yeah, well, he does then say, often with language, less is more. The elusive, vague, ambiguous phrase leaves the listener more room for imagination than does a sentence full of bombast and self-indulgence. So, yeah, you've got to leave it a bit vague. And then, really, he's just talking a bit about rhythm.
Get down to the rhythm of the night.
Often at the beginning, it's good to disguise your intentions a little bit. But then in the second phase, basically you hit them with the seductive language, and that works as well. That works as well. Varying things up a little bit, not showing your hand too much right at the beginning. Very, very powerful. But look, I think that probably does us for today. That was a good little analysis of those two techniques. That I think if you embody those things, if you really internalize those things, they will help you in the dating market for sure. They've certainly helped me. Just that sense of, firstly, sparky emotion, the demonic use of language, if you want to put it like that, very powerful. And also keeping them in suspense, not being too obvious, not being too easy to work out. All of this stuff, so important.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%.
So look, what have you got coming up this week, and where can the guys find you?
Well, I'm actually having a show tomorrow with TJ Martinell, who was a former member of the Masculine Geek. He's a great writer. He wrote The Song of Wolfgar as well, which I narrated. Was my first. Was that my first? No, second narration, which is available on Amazon. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Also, I am 100.
He writes for Punch Riot, doesn't he?
That too. That too. I am 100 people away from hitting 2,000 subscribers. So be a dear. Don't be a dick. Go to my channel and subscribe.
Sign up, guys, for God's sake.
Yeah, do it. After that, if you like the content, you can become a member, private community on there as well. weekly Q&As, weekly live stream as well, which I'm going to do tomorrow as well. So look out for that. And of course, Red Evening, the flagship show, one of the best shows in the Manosphere, together with Rob Says from the Masculine Geek as well, where we just talk daily life as a Red Pill aware man. Like, how do you navigate the strange and crazy world we live in right now? And is it still even possible to date during COVID? Yes, it is.
Absolutely, it certainly is. So go over to his channel, for God's sake, guys, and sign up, subscribe. He only needs 100 more subscribers to hit 2,000, which is a big milestone. Somebody suggested that we do a karaoke show, which I think would actually be a really good idea.
That would be great.
Maybe we can...
cringy as hell, but it would be great.
Exactly. So maybe that's something we can consider going forward. We've certainly both got very beautiful singing voices. Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, please just hit subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you know when the new live streams are coming up. I think, like all of us, you get a little bit sort of throttled sometimes. So if you hit the notifications bell and subscribe, at least you'll be in with a chance of knowing when the new streams are coming out. Do watch Rule Zero from the weekend if you haven't already. It's the last video on my channel. What else? Grab my collection of books, Renegade's Dating Blueprint, 11 books about dating game and the dating marketplace. The link is below in the description. And that's it, really. We'll see you guys again very soon.